Back to the Iowa State Fair coverage here at the Crystal Studios. I'm Jan Mickelson. We're broadcasting live here today and tomorrow and all next week as well. You could not have planned or charted a better opening day at the Iowa State Fair. The weather was perfect, and WHO has conspired with the fair people for the first 2 or 3 hours this morning. We opened the gates, and they were doing the corn dog promotion with Van and Bonnie. They had 12,000 people plus show up at the grandstands to not just break a record, but establish one that will live in perpetuity. I can't think of any occasion anybody else would come to such a situation to early in the morning and sit in the grandstand, wait for a record like this. This is really kind of cool. Congressman Tom Latham has joined us here in the studio. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. It's great to be with you, Jan. And I did not make the corn dog number this morning. But
what happened to that gadget you have in your car that turns all the lights green and the siren that moves the riffraff out of the way? What happened to the motorcycle, the entree you usually have when you come out to the fair?
Well, you know me, Jan. I don't have much of a entourage with me, and it certainly is not something that I would want to have. But it's just a great day at the fair, and going back to when I was a kid, it was such a huge event to come to the state fair, and I came in for 4-H to judge livestock down here, and it's just a wonderful event and a premier event for the state of Iowa, obviously.
All right, we have a little time with you here today, so let's talk to about as many issues as we can, as quickly as we can, and we'll get the listeners involved as quickly as we can too. The biggest issue that is going on right now countrywide, I think, now that the war has to some degree moved off of the front burner, is at least in Iraq, things are looking pretty good, relatively speaking. Would you agree with that assessment so far?
Well, absolutely. And all the credit goes to our brave men and women in uniform who have fought valiantly over there, who have sacrificed so much, their families at home that have sacrificed so much, and we just should honor them in every way possible. But certainly, I saw last time I was in Iraq a huge difference from the previous 2 trips over there. The improvements that have been made, and the even people in the national press now are saying that we are winning. We have won in Iraq, and it's not perfect. You're still going to have some radical folks over there that are going to strap bombs on children and run them into crowds. But the Iraqis themselves have stood up. Just yesterday, they voted $21 billion for infrastructure in Iraq of their own money, and that's a huge step forward. They have come a long ways. They have a long ways to go yet as far as their government, as far as unifying the country, but the progress has been unbelievable, and the folks who said that we had lost in Iraq are proven wrong because of our brave men and women in uniform.
The biggest issue at the moment, outside of the presidential race, of course, is the energy issue. And right now you still have some of your compatriots on the House floor that are, it's not really a filibuster because you guys really aren't in session. The C-SPAN people and Nancy Pelosi won't even let the lights be turned on and the microphones on. Your party didn't want to adjourn, at least at one level.
Right.
So talk to me about that.
Well, I think this is a defining moment between the two parties in Washington. Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker, and the Democrat majority voted to adjourn last Friday morning before we had an opportunity to take a vote. And that's all we're asking for is a vote on the number one issue in the country, and that is the high cost of energy, the availability, the access that we have for energy. And what we want to vote on and the policy that we're putting forth is comprehensive. It's all of the above. It focuses, number one, on conservation to make sure that we're doing everything we can to save every bit of energy we can in this country, to look at renewable energies when you look at ethanol, biodiesel, when you look at wind, solar, nuclear, which we have to have as far as the overall process and a component, and certainly to look at new new resources as far as oil and gas. And the key to that is to have American oil and American gas, natural gas too. When we go into winter this fall, it's going to really be a shock to folks to see how much they're paying for energy. And what we have to do, we're not only creating American jobs here, but lessen our dependence on foreign dictators. 94% of the oil in the world today is controlled by foreign countries. We talk about having to spend $700 billion overseas every year to bring energy into this country, but a lot of that money goes to dictators like Hugo Chavez down in Venezuela. It goes to people who don't have our best interests in mind, say in Saudi Arabia and Iran and places like that. But we can have a huge step towards American independence and freedom, and that's what this country has to have for the future. This is about not today, but it's about 20 years from now where we're going to be. We have the best scientists, the best engineers, the best technicians in the world. We can solve this problem, but we're going to have to get from point A today to that time in the future when that technology takes over 15, 20 years from now.
I won't play it for you, but I was listening last night. I happened across a website and chased a link or two, and I came across Jimmy Carter doing one of his, wearing a sweater, standing in front of a camera, and he was having the identical conversation we're having right now in the late 70s, saying something exactly the same things. We didn't learn our lesson back then. And he talked about all the money, he talked about inflation, he talked about exporting jobs, he talked about importing all the energy, he talked about the instability. And he sounded like such a twerp saying this stuff. He was a really ineffectual individual, but he was, at least on this issue, he was right.
Well, he's absolutely right, but the problem we had in 1973 is the total neglect of Congress and previous administrations and this administration as far as solving this problem. And we have, I think, a golden opportunity today because the American people understand it, that our independence in this country, unfortunately, today is based on fossil fuels, oil, natural gas. It's the coal, all of those things that we depend so much on, and we've got to have access to American resources. We have tremendous supplies. If you look at
what have you settled on? What have you settled on exactly? If you could do what you wanted to do, and partisanship was not an issue, what would it look like?
Well, it would look like opening up the 97% of the offshore resources that we have for exploration today, and we all know we can do it in a very environmentally friendly way. You look at what happened with Katrina and Rita down there, the wells, not a drop of oil was spilled in the Gulf. We have ways of exploring those areas today and doing it very environmentally friendly. We've got to go up to Alaska and get those vast resources. It's not just a matter of increasing supply up there, but if we don't do something in Alaska, we're about 600 million barrels a day about 600,000 barrels a day that go through the Alaska pipeline. In 4 or 5 years, we're going to be down to 300,000, and we're going to have to, basically, it's not economically feasible to keep that open. That's going to shut down that resource of what we currently get from that part of the country. We've got to explore up there. It's a tiny footprint in the vast area in Anwar. We've got to go in there, but we've got to, and we focus certainly on all of the renewable energies that we have access to, like I mentioned earlier, whether you're talking about ethanol, soy diesel, biomass. When
so
you're
it sounds like you've been after the
solar.
Paris Hilton plan. This is her plan.
Well, I think we need everybody on board, whoever. But if that's her plan, she's right. Because, that's exactly what we need to do. And first of all, we've got to conserve what we have. Now, let's not forget that. That is a primary function of of the whole plan. I think by people being smart, weatherizing incentives for people to use mass transit in urban areas, things like that, we can conserve our resources that we have today. But we're going to have, by the year 2030, a need for about an additional 50% of energy production, electrical energy production in this country. And so we've got to look at nuclear, which is the most environmentally friendly.
Can we get all this stuff through the power structure? No matter who's in, because right now the American people, I think, are right with you on this. Right. We want everything. We want to throw everything at the blackboard at the same time as we can in the most responsible way. We're tired of this. We've been had 2 or 3 times in our memories. We don't want this ever to happen again. We don't ever have to waste American blood in any stupid third world country again, chasing down oil supplies. We want to sever our relationship with the stupidity on the planet and do it ourselves as much as possible. But can we do this through the political process?
We're America. I mean, we can do anything. And this is just so straightforward what we're talking about. If we were
like I said, can we do it?
Yes. Well, as Americans, we have the capability and potential to do anything.
Americans are with you on this. I'm asking about the political class.
Well, and that's why the frustration we have and why the revolt continues on the floor of the House today with Republicans down there saying, let's go back in session, let's get a vote. And the reason that the Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, and the Democrat majority doesn't want to have a vote is because they know that they're going to lose a large number of their own Democrats that are going to vote with us on a bipartisan basis. And we're not going to do anything if we're not doing it on a bipartisan basis.
Yeah, but why would they care? I mean, why would that be a problem if they're actually doing what their constituents want them to do? What's wrong with every once in a while, just for the sake of argument, a little bipartisan cooperation breaking out? What would happen if that happened?
If bipartisan cooperation broke out, we would solve this problem immediately, and prices at the pump would come down almost immediately. But the problem is the Speaker and a lot of people in her leadership and the Democrat majority worship at the altar of environmental radicals and extreme
Is it as
ideas.
simple as that?
Oh, absolutely. And there's major funding for their causes that come from those people.
So they're not going to mess up the money trail.
Well, if you're from San Francisco, like the Speaker is, and you sit around, with all the elite there and talk about the world, I mean, it's not exactly the same as some person who lives at Alexander, Iowa, and has to drive 30 miles to go to work every day for a lower-paying job.
What these people need is a good corn dog.
I think that's right, Jan. You once again, you found the solution, Jan. I appreciate that.
Congressman Tom Latham is here in the studio. We'll take a brief time out, and then we'll go right to our phone lines. We have a limited amount of time, so hustle to 284-1040 or 800-469-4295 in a sec.
WHO.
I am losing my mouse control here. I'm playing with a new gadget, friends, and I apologize that sometimes it's either on or off. Congressman Latham is our in-studio guest, and he is here at the Crystal Studios with us with the Iowa State Fair, their very first opening day. And, Congressman, we have oodles of people who would like to get involved in this conversation, and let's begin with Ken. Good morning, Ken. Hi, Ken. Earth to Ken. I think we got him.
Yes, I'm here.
There you go.
Well, you kind of have already answered my question. I wanted to call in and talk to you a little bit about the protesting Republicans have been doing on the House floor.
Yes.
But I guess another important question that I had was about the flood relief for Iowans and why haven't we done more to get support to clean up the mess left by the flood?
All right, good. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks, Ken, for that question. And as far as on the floor of the House, that protest is going to continue right up until the time of the Democrat convention out in Denver. So that will continue, and the word will continue to get out as far as what we need to do is to have Congress come back and address this issue. When you talk about flood relief, we not only adjourned without doing anything as far as energy, we adjourned without doing anything anything additional to help with the flood relief here in Iowa and throughout the Midwest. I wrote a letter to the Speaker a week ago Thursday demanding that we stay in session until we address this issue. I've had no response at all from the Speaker on this. We have dramatic needs here in the state and throughout the Midwest. Housing Urban Development released $85 million yesterday, but that's a drop in the bucket as to what we need.